So today is Wednesday, June the 9th, and this isn't going to be part of my official pregnancy announcement video or anything. This is just kind of like a chat about how things have been so far. I had a couple people that knew I was pregnant before we really announced it to everybody. All the girls were like, please tell us exactly how it is, all the experience. I hope the lighting's not too funny. It's raining outside, and so it's a little light dark. Okay, that's a little bit better. So anyways, I just had a lot of people being like, please document the whole thing. We want to know everything. I feel like in my head, what was going to happen was, the day I found out I was pregnant, boom, vlogs, all sorts of content, all the info and everything. Definitely that has not happened, because as of today, if you guys can tell by my very labored breath while I'm sitting here doing nothing, I am 12 weeks, close to 13 weeks pregnant. I haven't filmed a single thing about anything. So today I just wanted to, while I had intentions of this being a do stuff with me vlog, I think I just want to do a little sit down and check in and check up and catch you guys up to date to now. Suki's so mad it's raining, I'm very sorry. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you have probably heard some of this already. I want to start by saying I'm so grateful and blessed and happy to be pregnant. Really? Dead honestly, the pregnancy part has been so easy that it worried me so much at the beginning that I definitely had lost the baby. How is this easy, kind of? While this is gonna sound like a whole lot of complaining, and it is 100% about doctors and doctor appointments and procedure and everything like that. It is not about my perfect little baby that has caused me no issue at all, hardly. I found out I was pregnant 5 weeks and 2 days. I told Dustin this and he didn't even know, which was funnier. I was like, I typically record when I take a pregnancy test, and he was like, do you do that for every time? I was like, yeah, I pretty much do, because I want to catch my reaction. I almost said reactment. If I am pregnant, and whatever. This day was not like that. So the past week before I had found out I was pregnant, I kept saying to Dustin, I do not know what is going on, but I'm so tired. I feel like my sleep and how I typically do sleep is odd, because I like to stay up really late, but I like to get up really early. I usually have a hard time staying asleep. I would occasionally have nightmares. I wasn't a very good sleeper in my adult life so far. Well, first of all, I was so tired all of the time, but I was sleeping amazing. I could have gone to bed at 8 p.m. and I would sleep easily until 10 a.m. the next day, which is incredibly unlike me. I am a natural early riser, so come 7, 8 a.m. I'm okay, ready to go. And so much so, in fact, that on weekends when Dustin had the day off, thank you, I, on Saturdays, would be okay, I'll just lay here and let him sleep for a while, because I would wake up so much earlier than he would. And Dustin wasn't sleeping until noon. He was sleeping till 9:30 or 10. So I was I don't know what's going on. I'm just so tired. I'm sleeping through the night better than I normally am, and I'm still waking up really, really tired. Other than that, and I said my other symptom was, there were 2 or 3 days where I was so angry at everything. And now it's kind of funny, because I've heard other people say they completely were seeing red when they were pregnant, and I was. And I kept texting Dustin while he was at work and being like, dude, I'm sorry. I don't know what is wrong with me today, but I'm aggravated. So come that day where I take my test, normal day, nothing's going on. Girl to girl, if you're wondering, other symptom wise, I kind of felt like I had some symptoms, I was going to have my period. I don't think my legs were sore, but my chest was, and that's really normal for me. There was something else that was going on though, that I was oh, definitely that's coming, but I don't remember what the other symptom was. But basically, I did not feel abnormal at all. So I had gotten up, I was gonna go to the store. I was already mad that day at nothing. And so when I first started getting pregnancy tests to store them and take them regularly every month, I got a pack of what I called crappy tests, which nothing wrong with them, but I just feel like I want to know when I'm pregnant with a digital test that says like, yes, girl, 100% you pregnant. Not like a little stick. You know those really skinny, they're like potato sticks. Y'all remember those? That's the kind of test I had. The month before we found out we were pregnant, I was so 100% sure that I was, that I even called my doctor and said, my tests are coming up negative, but I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. And of course they were like, okay, crazy, no. And so I obviously was not in February. But then when I took this test, I had used so many tests the last time. I had one crappy test left. I didn't have any other tests. And so I started the shower, was letting the water warm up for a second, went to take my test, and then I was gonna be off to the grocery store. I take my test, real quick, it comes back 2 lines. And I was like, so my very first thought wasn't, oh my gosh, this is it, I'm pregnant. My first thought was, great. Like the last test and the whole thing, I don't have another one to test, and that one's obviously malfunctioned. Never did it cross my mind that I was actually pregnant. Well, I mean, it crossed my mind, but I was just in disbelief, I guess. I basically paced around the house for a long time. Was so mad at myself I didn't have extra tests. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get in the shower really quick, go get another test, and like move on about my day. Dustin was at work during this time, and so I went and got another test, 3 tests, and all 3 came back positive, and I got the digital one that said pregnant or not pregnant, and it said pregnant. For it to start off that way was really exciting and just funny, and what seemed like to us random, but obviously God's timing on things. And so when Dustin got home, I told him I had a early birthday present for him, and this was like April the 14th or 15th, I think, when we found out, and his birthday is the end of May, and he was like, okay. So we were both shocked, really excited. We couldn't really wait, and so we told his parents, I think at like 6 weeks. We told my dad's mom, we told my dad, and then I told 2 close friends, and then other than that, we're not telling really anybody for a while. So symptom-wise, I'm trying to make this as concise as possible, but I hope it's just fun to listen to. Even before I found out I was pregnant, I love listening to these kinds of videos, so I hope that they're interesting to you guys. Symptom-wise, when I found out I was pregnant, afterwards, I was like, that explains why I'm so ever-loving tired. I have never been this tired in my whole life. One morning, I slept until 11 o'clock, which I haven't done since I was probably in college, and didn't even wake up like, time to start the day. I was like I could have probably kept sleeping. So I'm very tired still. I was really, really nauseous for probably like 2 whole months, I would say, but I never did actually get sick, which is still mind-blowing to me. The nausea was so annoying because I feel like sometimes if you're nauseous, the thing that like comes as such a good relief is just to get sick, get it over with, and then start to feel better. So this was only annoying because it was like over and over every single day, all day long. I was just like waiting for the relief. And I tried all sorts of stuff. I tried the sour candies. They did not work for me. I mean, like everything. Anything you could think of, I tried to get rid of that nausea, and it did not work. So the only thing that did end up helping me a lot, and I unfortunately found this out towards like way the end of being sick all day, every day, was if I could pretty much keep something on my stomach every 2-ish hours, even if it was like a couple crackers or anything, that helped me the most. So I would say it was most difficult in the morning to get up quick enough and like start eating something, because if you were already nauseous, you didn't want to eat, but that was what was going to keep you from being more nauseous. Can you take that over to your bed? So we finally got that kind of managed. And I wish that I had more for you guys about like, I don't know, the first bit of the first trimester was crazy and all this stuff was happening, but really it wasn't like that for me. I have only heard of a few other people that like I know personally or follow personally that were like, yeah, I didn't have any morning sickness and everything was fine and whatever. I feel like most people I'm following right now, sorry, Susie's playing with her antler. Most people are like, I'm dead sick, everything is terrible, I'm miserable, and my symptoms just weren't that terrible. So all of that to lead us up to doctor appointments, and that's what we're here to talk most about today. So I haven't always been the greatest at keeping up with a gynecologist, honestly. I go when I need to, but I haven't ever had like a super steady, consistent like doctor that I love, that I always go back to. It feels like every single year when I'm going in for a checkup, I'm like basically with a new doctor. This time I knew I did not want to go to the place I was last at anymore. I had been there a few times and it was really far away. It was just kind of like in a janky part of town. Didn't like it. So I started looking for a new doctor and everybody was telling me about this one female doctor. And so I made an appointment with her before I was pregnant. When I had my cyst rupture, I think I made a video about that. I think I maybe fooled myself into thinking it was a better experience than what it was, because at that point I had been to several other doctors who could not tell me what was going on. She did an ultrasound and was able to tell me that a cyst had ruptured. So I think there was just such like a relief in knowing that's what it was that I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. But I do remember leaving that appointment and telling Dustin, I feel like she would like me better if I was pregnant. Her specialty, I guess, is in labor and delivery, and maybe she thought I was like wasting her time. And she did tell me basically just take like such a high dose of Tylenol that you can't buy it over the counter. But she didn't give me a prescription of Tylenol basically every day if you need it. And I remember calling back several times and being like, hi, I'm still having issues and I'm worried about taking Tylenol all day, every single day of my life. They did not seem very concerned with that though. Fast forward, I make my first appointment. I called them the day I found out I was pregnant. They scheduled me for almost 11 weeks. So I thought that was a long time to wait for your first appointment, but I was just so blinded by excitement that I was like, okay, great, I'll come in then. I was reading all about your prenatal appointment, how it was a really long appointment. They did blood work, they do a pelvic exam, they do your full family history, they do, you know, all of this stuff. And so that's what I was expecting. I was expecting a really long appointment because it was going to be doing all, you know, this stuff. Dustin was able to take the day off for that appointment, which was great. They actually told us he would only be able to go back for the ultrasound, but I had known people that were pregnant during COVID that did not have their husbands back at all for any appointment. And so we were really excited about that. They did the ultrasound and everything was so sweet and so surreal to see this baby like kicking around and moving, and you know, it's just like, oh my gosh, there is a child in my stomach. So we were really, really excited about that. Just as a side note, and I'm happy to do a separate video or several videos, however it pans out, if you guys have specific questions about appointments. For me, this was not a big deal, but I didn't know that a lot of people did not know this, that your first appointment for confirmation of pregnancy is typically done with a transvaginal ultrasound, which means it's not the cute little tummy one you see on TV. It's like stripped down butt naked, in your space personal. I had one of those when I had my cyst rupture, so I was luckily already familiar with that procedure, so I wasn't like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? We do the ultrasound and they let Dustin wait back there with me, which I was like, oh wow, I didn't think you could wait back here with me. We waited and we waited and we waited, and we finally got back to the doctor. A nurse came in and like, you know, did my blood pressure, made sure that my information from last time was correct, and then we waited and we waited and we waited and waited and waited and waited. When the doctor finally came in, we spent about 7 minutes with her. We spent 3 hours at the office that day. And in total, I think we figured out that with someone, we spent probably 30 to 45 minutes. The rest of the time was just waiting. I think because I had prepared for a long appointment, I wasn't annoyed by waiting. But then when she came in and it was like such a short visit, I was like, wait a minute. So I had a whole notebook full of questions I was gonna ask. Just, you know, I was prepared for that appointment, and she came in, asked if I had had any bleeding, or if my nausea was like unbearable. I said no to both, and she was like, okay, good. And then she asked if I had had any birth defects in my family, and I said no. And she asked about Dustin's family. Dustin got to be in the room for us for this part, but I will say this doctor did not ever acknowledge Dustin, didn't say hi, I'm the doctor, didn't say anything to him, which really upset me because we're both like, this was a 50-50 process here to get here today. And it just aggravated me that he seemed ignored. So we said no, Dustin's family didn't have any birth defects. And then she said, okay, so we can't tell from your ultrasound if this is the nuchal translucency or if it is the amniotic sac. And the reason I feel like sharing this is because I only saw maybe one other thing online where someone wrote and said they had the same thing happen to them, and then it was like a common thing to happen. Now, with all my research, that's all I found, but a lot of people I've talked to have said this happened to them. So when I went in for my appointment, officially I was 10 weeks and 6 days, so I was one day under being 11 weeks pregnant. The earliest that the nuchal translucency is supposed to be measured is 11 weeks and either 2 or 4 days, I can't remember. Then after 13 weeks and 6 days, they cannot measure that neck measurement anymore. So basically, in short, the nuchal translucency, the main thing with it is if it is measuring large, that is a pretty, I think they call a hard marker for Down syndrome. They have a couple other markers for Down syndrome, but basically that is meaning that there's probably like a chromosome abnormality or something going on. So that's basically how she was telling us that maybe wasn't measuring correct. She also told us that the machines that they had there, she explained, were good machines, but they couldn't really see what they needed to, which to me was a weird sell of your own office to say like they're old machines and they're not super great, when really the issue was the ultrasound technicians at that office were not trained to specifically look for that, to be able to measure that. I knew that when I did blood work, the NIPT, which I believe stands for non-invasive P-word testing, I can't remember what it is, but basically that's where they're going to test for abnormalities and your likelihood that you are going to have a baby with an abnormality. I knew that would be offered when I did all my other blood work, but that was what I was most nervous for that day, was the blood work. And I asked the nurse, are we doing blood work today? She said no. And so I was like, oh my gosh, great. Like that was what I was most nervous for, you know, whatever. Well, then after she presents this information in such a way that really sounded like definitely something's going on, she was like, let's go ahead and do blood work today. And I'm going to refer you to a specialist that, you know, he works at a bunch of different places. You guys might just have to travel. We just have got to get you in there. His soonest available next week. You just have to take whatever appointment he has. So basically all this to say, it really sounded like this is an emergency. And it was not explained at all that we can't measure it later on. That's the rush right now. It wasn't explained like we're doing all this and what is going to come of it, which after talking to Dustin and his family, my family and some friends, they pretty much all agreed that it was like, even if we had done all that to find out, oh yeah, there's an abnormality present, there's nothing they can do in the womb to be like, okay, we'll shoot you with a shot and it'll fix it. So it just didn't make sense to us why she was making it seem like we have to do it right now. It's an emergency, like we, you know, whatever. So I did my blood work, was really nervous about it, left that day really uneasy. And then we waited for the appointment to be made. So basically we got set up with the doctor finally, and even though she made it an emergency that we had to be seen the next week, I didn't get seen until this week. And I guess I was, how pregnant am I now? 11 and 5. So I was 11 and 4 days. 12 and 4 days when I went for that appointment. So a whole almost 2 weeks after she made it a big emergency is when we actually ended up getting in. The doctor that we went to was a full hour away from us, which was not bad. I mean, she was making it sound like board a plane and like get on a ship and good luck. I was like, okay, an hour away, sure, awesome. It was really early in the morning, so we were like a little worried about work traffic, everything, but we got there fine. We couldn't find the building. I started getting stressed that they weren't going to let us keep our appointment because our appointment started at 8:30. We got there at 8, but we went to the wrong building 3 times. It was like, basically the way that their address looked, it didn't say suite number 111, it said 111, which made it appear like go to building 111. So when we went in there, they were like, oh, this happens all the time. This isn't the right building. It took forever, and it was such a big place to walk around because it was a hospital, and we were in the office finally at like 8:23, and I was like, oh my gosh. So that experience was actually really pleasant. Everybody there was really nice, and the thing that got me, I guess, was when we got back to the ultrasound room, Dustin was allowed back, and they told me, when you get your final news, your husband can't be back there for that, but he can be back for the ultrasound. So I was really worried, like, oh my gosh, okay, so he's gonna be able to see the baby again, but then after that, when they tell me like what's wrong, what's going on, he's not gonna be able to be back there. So I was like nervous about having to deal with that on my own, but I was like, okay. So let me interject in my own story and say, at this point, we got our blood test results the Sunday before we went on Tuesday. The blood results said that my chances of, and I'll say this too, our doctor did not explain at all, you're over 35, I'm not, which makes you a higher risk. You've had birth defects in your family, he's had birth defects in his family. Everything that I thought was a risk factor, we didn't even talk about. She didn't ask anything, like nothing. There was no, this is why I think you would be at a higher risk for that. There was none of that. It was just, we have to do the blood work now. We have to get in for the other ultrasound now. So when we went in, so when we looked at the blood work, my results came back, every single thing, my chances were less than 0 out of 10,000, which put my percentage at less than 0.01% of having an abnormality. I will tell you, even though it says that, that doesn't mean like, well, now I can't have a baby with any problems. You definitely still can, but that's just saying your risk is like virtually non-existent. And I knew I had seen already, if your number was something like 1 in 200, that might be something to think about. She made us believe, I think, that once we did the blood work and the ultrasound, we would know 110% if our baby had Down syndrome, and then we could go from there. Going from there for us would mean just preparing to raise a baby with Down syndrome, and that's all. But she did not explain that when you do both those tests, it is only calculating your risk. It is not telling you for sure if that is or is not an issue. The only way to be able to determine if your baby does have Down syndrome or any other abnormalities is doing a test called CVS, which you guys, I guess, could look up if you're interested. But basically, there's that one and one other one, and I don't think I'm confusing the two of them. But basically, they take a part of your placenta, and it poses a risk for miscarriage. And so I was like, well, we wouldn't be doing that anyways. It was very confusing, and a lot of info was left out. When we went for the ultrasound, the woman came in the room, and she was like, okay, so we're here to measure your cervix. And me and Dustin looked at each other and were like, and she said that they wrote on my chart or something that the reason I was being referred is because my cervix was measuring small, which was very annoying to me, not only because that's not why we were there, but because when I was having my other ultrasound done, they ended up doing a tummy ultrasound and the transvaginal. And she said when she was doing the tummy ultrasound, it looks like your cervix is measuring a little short. But then when they did the internal one, she said, no, it actually is measuring good. So we knew for sure that it was fine. Anyway, it was just a miscommunication of like massive proportions. So we said, no, we're here for the nuchal translucency measurement actually. And so she was like, oh, okay. So we do the ultrasound. I know from the numbers she's pulling up when she's measuring that it looks fine, but I wasn't sure if she was gonna be able to tell me in there while we were doing the ultrasound, like, oh, it looks fine. She was measuring and she was like, yeah, the nuchal translucency looks fine. Your cervix looks fine. Like, you're looking good. So we met with the doctor. Luckily, I swear it's just by the grace of God, Dustin was allowed back for me to talk with the doctor too, even though they told me he wasn't. And so we met with him, and I'm not kidding you guys. He turned around in his chair. He's like an older man, so nice, and said, so why did they send you guys here today? Not in a rude way, in genuinely confused, like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to kind of be looking for because everything looks fine. And so we said for the nuchal translucency. And he said, did they say it was measuring wrong, or like what was, I said, they just said that they couldn't tell what the measurement was. And he said, okay. And I said, you know, they couldn't tell if it was amnion or that. And he said, well, how far along were you when they measured? And I said 10 weeks and 6 days. And he said, that is too early to do that. That's why they could not tell. So frustration does not even come close, because I feel like I've had to worry so long before my first appointment that, like, is the baby doing okay? Is there a heartbeat? Is everything fine? We get through that appointment and don't even get a full day of like, oh my gosh, like we saw the baby today, before we have something new to worry about. And it actually was not anything to have ever been worried about. It just was so aggravating. He said that the nuchal translucency measured absolutely perfect. He said it's almost too normal. Baby's length and everything normal, completely on spot normal. And so there was a lot of relief that came with that, but also even more like, are you kidding me that we just had to pay for a specialist to do this ultrasound. Dustin had to take a whole day off of work, miss a whole day work of, a whole day of pay, and for nothing. I mean, we were in and out of that appointment. I'm not kidding you. I think we were back in the car at like maybe 10. I think it was before then. So I'm glad that everything's okay, but I've just had such a crap experience so far with that doctor. I'm trying to get transferred right now to a new one, and even that process is like a pain in the neck. But that's why I'm like, I feel like I haven't been documenting anything, because I just feel like I haven't been able to fully celebrate and like plan stuff and, you know, anything other than being worried this entire time. And I feel like when the second doctor we saw was so confused, that gave me a little bit of reassurance that I just didn't, it wasn't like I just fully overreacted to that first appointment, because I am somebody who worries, you know, easily. And from him being so confused at why we would have been sent to a specialist just made me feel like, okay, yeah, they really missed the mark at the first appointment then. So I will also say that my chart online that you can like go and, you know, look at after doctor appointments, some hospitals have that option. The first appointment says prominent amnion versus nuchal translucency. However, it's measuring normal at 2 mm. And that aggravated me further to be like, wait a minute. So you guys knew the whole time it was like measuring. It just was such a train wreck. The point is, do your research really well before your first appointment, because I had so many questions when she said all of that, but I didn't even know what they were or how to ask them, or like how to ask for more info or what more I needed to ask for. So I would like to start doing some vlogs. We got a mini crib already for baby, and Dustin's parents got that for us, and we have the mattress for it on the way. And that's gonna be upstairs in our room. We have a changing table that's gonna be upstairs in our room. And I also have gotten a few freebie like welcome bags from a couple places that I wanted to share with you guys. Specifically, right now I have the newbie box and the Target welcome gift bag. I'm still waiting on my Walmart. I swear I don't think I'll ever see that, but I'm supposed to be getting one from there, and then also from Amazon. And so that's been really fun. There's been a lot of fun parts. It's just been so much unnecessary worry that it's been aggravating. but we know baby's gender, which we're gonna do a cute little reveal for. And then I guess we're gonna raise a human. So thanks for watching and listening to this. I have been beside myself and really lonely and upset about the entire thing, because I feel like when you were pregnant, like you were the one that's pregnant, you feel such a responsibility that if anything is wrong or you don't know what to ask or anything, you feel super responsible for it. And I just hated that first appointment, I prepared so much for it and I still felt so ill prepared for it. And I just felt like a little baby in the doctor's office, like, okay, whatever you say, and not able to ask informed, educated questions and all of that. So I've given myself a headache from talking. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you guys have so far. Like I said, have a couple other video ideas. I just have not felt well and had all this other stuff to deal with that really has taken up so much of my mind and day and time. And hopefully now I can kind of focus on some other things. So leave any questions or requests that you have down below. I'm happy to do them. I'm gonna get some water and read some baby books, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.